All right, everyone, welcome back to the Be Healthy and Thrive podcast. I am Brianna Wilkerson, your host, and today with me, I have Britta Bush from Salcha Living. This amazing company located here in the Cayman Islands that just has really good, high quality, good for you food. And so I thought, as we're talking about healthy body this month, that she's the perfect person to really talk through this. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yes. And so can you just maybe introduce yourself, tell us more about you and your business and kind of how you got started in running this company?
Okay, how I got started. That will tie into how I ended up here. So I've been in the Cayman Islands for 12 years. I came here as a dive instructor, lived and worked in the East End. And that is where the journey actually started. Because I was on a remote part of the island with no transportation, and I was on a dive master's budget. I couldn't afford to brew kombucha or to buy all the kombucha, so I started brewing kombucha in my cupboards 12 years ago, or 10 years ago. Actually, this year is my 10-year anniversary of brewing. So. And then the people that I met along the way, a lot of people, they had either gluten intolerances or were vegan. So my passion is cooking for people and, showing people new ingredients or new dishes. So then when I was challenged with vegan and gluten-free was when that journey started. But before it became a business, the other evolution that happened is I was very active in the yoga community, and a friend of mine, Danielle Gentlecore, and I have been running retreats to Little Cayman for about 5 years now, and so there are yoga and healing foods retreats. And she and I co-founded Salcha. So after doing these retreats and facilitating this amazing, quiet, peaceful space and offering only locally sourced produce along with organic grains and non-GMO ingredients, we kind of were like, well, why not offer this to the community in Grand Cayman, via meal delivery service? So that's really how it kind of snowballed, from dabbling in my interests and my passions into sharing it with others and then just widening the distribution to make it more accessible for people.
That's so awesome. I didn't realize that's how it all evolved over time.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So, the Little Cayman, like I said, was 5 or 6 years. Salcha started officially as a company in 2013, so five years. And now, we're really, really excited about making Salcha even more accessible in different ways at Art Nest, which is perfect central location, beautiful space, accessible parking. I could do the whole commercial for it, but we're really excited to be able to have a place where people can come to us. So for the past 5 years, we've only been able to have the relationship with our customers through email or events or our retail outlets. So our retail family is very important to us. But we're excited to be able to have direct contact with our customers.
Yeah, there's something about, that direct interaction that you just can't get, otherwise. And so that's amazing.
Exactly.
So what retail locations are you located at for those in Cayman listening that's I just want some of this, what you have to do?
Well, the kombucha is currently our most widely retailed product. Art Nest already has our complete lineup of raw vegan snacks, sweet treats, our green popcorn. The green popcorn will be more widely distributed later this year also, but for the moment it's available delivery and Art Nest only. Quintessential Movement also has the green popcorn. So we've got Art Nest as the main, distributor of all of our offerings, and then we've got the studios like Quintessential Movement, Bliss Yoga Studio, has the kombucha as well. And then we move into the resorts where we might, as locals, we might not spend so much time, but, forever there.
Yeah.
The Kimpton, the Marriott, the Ritz, and the Westin all have the kombucha available. And the restaurants that have carried kombucha since, some of them since their opening, like Island Naturals and Vivo, have both been since they opened, they partnered with us. Brasserie, the Greenhouse, and I hope I'm not forgetting anyone.
No.
Fresh was newly added this year.
Yeah.
Because they just opened, and I'm sure I think that's it for the restaurants, and then the grocery stores will be our most widest selection, as well as the small and the large kombucha. So that's Kirk's, Bay Market, and Hurley's.
Wow, you are located, and I think I've seen you in almost all those places too. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what other things? So kombucha is your main thing that you do, and you have all these amazing different flavors. And so you were saying some of the other things you offer are, the sourdough bread. Is that something is that something you just do for events?
That's something. No, sourdough has been my most recent, education and study and passion. Like, it's the first thing I've loved as much as I do since I first started brewing kombucha. So essentially, I'm like a fermentation
queen,
obsessor. So the sourdough at the moment is not really through Saucha. It's distributed through Saucha, but because I do such small batches right now, it's not on the menu.
Yeah.
Until we're able to increase production.
Right.
But yes, it is a big hit at events. We've pretty much been serving it since Cayman Cookout this year. And it's, I don't even remember, before I had sourdough that I fermented myself, I don't know that I'd ever really had real sourdough.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome that you tried it out. And I tasted it. I loved it.
Yeah, it's only gotten better as I've, studied it for longer and gotten to be able to read it. That's the trick with fermentation.
Yeah. So
being able to read the signal.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So then tell us too, so you have all these amazing kind of good for you healing foods, that are vegan and, this fermentation. So what led you to kind of what's the importance of that? For those listening that are maybe newer to it or love kombucha and don't know why they should really drink it, because they just drink it, why fermentation? Why all these natural vegan foods? Why is it important? I know it's a broad question. I know. Take as much time as you need.
Well, I guess that also starts very long ago for me. I became vegetarian when I was 15, and I became a huge animal rights advocate, writing, Procter and Gamble telling them I was boycotting their products because they tested on animals, and became an ingredients reader. And as I became an ingredients reader for animal products, I started realizing how many other ingredients there are in our food, that maybe was normal for us growing up with. But I guess the older I got, well, it wasn't even that old. I got into this I got into this in my 20s, so quite 15 years, that I just really came back to the idea of the basic rules of you should be able to pronounce all the ingredients in your food. There should be less than 5 ingredients in your food. Your grandparents should be able to recognize the item as food. So what I'm talking about that now is more like the convenience, the box products. Bread. This has been one of the reasons of my discovery of sourdough and the magic of bread. Who doesn't love bread? But there's the huge gluten intolerance issue, and I believe that there are gluten intolerances, and I believe, and I know there's celiacs and Crohn's disease that are truly that gluten is the issue, but I believe that most people are actually allergic to what's been done to the food rather than the food itself. So if you think about, like, let's just talk about bread. In the 50s, late 50s, when food had to start to be shipped, across the US, like across the country or globally, they had to start adding preservatives and removing the good stuff. So a kernel, like a kernel of wheat has wheat bran, wheat germ, wheat oil, and all those things were removed, leaving us with this processed white flour, giving us the fluffy white bread. But what stopped happening was the fermentation. Like businesses, food became an industry, removing the relationships, adding, pesticides, adding chemicals, using science to maximize food. But in the end, I think what really happened is that it is an industry. It doesn't care about our health. That's why there's battery farms chickens, and, these companies shield anybody from seeing what actually happens in there. And that's more like, I'm talking about the animal side, but also on the plant side of things, you look at crops that have become like soy and corn, that are most genetically modified crops that are filler, not only filler for the foods that we eat, that are 100 different types of corn syrup, corn starch, soy is in everything, and those are the things that concern me the most. And not only are those used for our food, but they are also feeding cows, which are not meant to eat grains in the first place. So cows should be eating grass. That's why they have 4 stomachs. They should not be ingesting soybeans or corn or wheat. So, and then if you think about that cycle, now you're eating the cow that's eating the stuff that's not meant to eat, and that's also giving hormones. So I really think that a lot of the disease we're seeing and the epidemic of, children getting their periods earlier, women, females getting the periods earlier, and boys developing faster is partially in part due to the amount of hormones they have been ingesting through the food. So that brings me back to the relationship. I don't even remember what the question was. I'm sorry. But it brings me back to the relationship with food.
Right.
And once you know your farmer and you know that that food has come out of the ground that day, and here especially in Cayman, where we rely on the United States as our food source, and we are getting, kale that was grown in California, trucked across the U.S., sat in Miami, waiting to go to the boat, sits in Cayman, sits in the port here, and then gets stocked on our shelves. Versus going to the farmer's market and buying a $2 bunch of kale from the local farmer that's a really nice guy. And not only are you eating fresher, more nutritious food, but you're also keeping your community healthy because you're supporting those that are living and working here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's really not just about, we clearly talked about it, but it's not just about the vegan, because we do focus on vegan offerings. It's not that. It's the conscious eating. It's the knowledge of where your ingredients coming from, and it's the choices that we make every day to be healthier. So I think that was the original question, is why. Mm-hmm. And my choice was many years ago to remove animals, and I've gone in and out of that. Like, I'm not 100% vegan right now. But I still acknowledge it, that I think that if I ever want to heal my body, I think that would be the first option I took. I would not turn to medication, but I would turn to a plant-based diet. And that's where I'm always striving to go back to right now. But it's just, we go through different phases in our life and different relationships with food, and we have to be okay with that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You said so much amazing stuff. No, that was awesome. I think you just laid it down from history till now, why we should. And I think the main thing, what you really said, is just becoming empowered and conscious. Just like, don't just eat something because the TV, the industry that wants you to buy certain food says so. Like, empower yourself to know what you're eating and know why. Like, why is it important?
And then that brings me, then that you have that choice. And when you go to the grocery stores and also when you go out to restaurants. So to me, one of my biggest responsibility as a, restaurant owner or food provider, I feel that we are the ones that have the biggest responsibility because we buy the most stuff in bulk. So restaurants actually have huge power to make change. And if all consumers are voting with their dollars right now, and it's already happening that the organic industry is growing phenomenally, and things like kombucha versus soda. Like if you compare the industries right now, soda is continuing to lose. And why? It's because people now know that, it's corn syrup. They're just drinking corn syrup. And they're, nothing about it is good. There's not an ounce of nutrition in that soda. So then it goes back to the saying of, whenever you eat, you make the choice, are you going to fuel your disease or you're going to heal it? So that's kind of my story. Like those were the things that were important to me. And I have never gone through anything, I haven't had any really significant healing issue, but it's just, I think it's just about the relationship with food and just, as you said, empowering yourself to know the ingredients, know your farmers, know the restaurants even, because it matters, like what mood are the people in when they're handling your food? Are they happy? Are they just there? So I think that's why I really am proud to offer what we do, because, the people that are in the kitchen, like, I know that they're doing it with their heart and soul. And I think that really comes through. That's like the missing ingredient that you can never identify.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you can tell. And I love how you're saying, what mood are they in? Like, like, for example, when my grandmom or my grandmother or my mom prepares a meal, I feel like it's so much better because they put so much love into it. And they're like, no, it has to be this way. They took time. I'm more likely, even if another one, even if another place cooks it quote unquote better, I'm probably gonna go to my mom because she just cooks it with love. Yeah, exactly.
And you can tell, when you go to a restaurant and the chef really cares. It doesn't. I'm not saying it needs to be $30 a plate,
right?
Like a gourmet restaurant, but you can tell when a chef cares. Because you can tell in your mouth, and you can tell by looking at the ingredients on the plate. Like, that's what I do now. I mean, obviously I'm doing what I do now. Whenever I go out to eat, I'm like kind of hypersensitive.
No, rightfully like, so.
I don't know those. But, we focus on local, so I can typically identify local. If it's not local, it either needs to be the Clean 15. I'm sure you're familiar with those. Should I say it?
You can list it out.
Okay, so I'm not going to list them all out, but I'll just say, like, Clean 15 is again, especially since we live on an island and we have limited access and things are expensive here. So one way to save money is you don't have to buy organic for everything. So Clean 15 are the 15 identified pieces of produce that have the least amount of pesticides on them. Like off the top of my head, like cauliflower and cabbage, avocados are a great supplement, and mushrooms are a great supplement to a vegan diet, but even if you're trying to get more nutrients through your diet, through plants, they're a great way to save money as well as bulk up your shopping list. Versus, organic, which the Dirty Dozen, so these would be items that always need to be organic. Number one for the longest time was apples, but most recently strawberries have taken over. Essentially, any berries need to be organic because they have something like 30 pesticides on them. So then, berries and grapes. So unfortunately, things that are already very expensive. So if you think about adding another, price level to that with organic, but it's worth it because that's an investment in your health.
Right.
But then again, it goes back to being empowered and knowing that. So what I have trouble with is, you know, if you're making this beautiful berry smoothie, or even kale is on the Dirty Dozen. So if it's not organic and you're juicing you're having a kale and cucumber juice that's conventionally farmed, essentially all you're doing is concentrating those pesticides and giving yourself a nice infusion of those. So it's just I'm not saying never drink a kale and cucumber conventional juice. Like, you have to find balance, because you will drive yourself crazy. Like, I've been there. I'm like, I look at a menu, I'm like, I can't eat anything. This is all Dirty Dozen.
I know.
This is all, like, what kind of oil do they use here?
I know.
But so then you have to, like, I mean, this is I'm kind of saying something that's conflicting. It's important to be aware of for your lifestyle, but it's also important to be able to let it go.
Yeah, exactly.
So that you can enjoy life and not be constricted by these rules. So that's kind of my approach. Like, you know, I like to offer what I believe in, and I'm very strict when it comes to that. But personally, like, I'm not going to deny myself everything that might be bad, you know, because I know that I'm doing so much good to it. So
right, exactly.
This might have been the original questions. Why fermentation?
Yeah. No, all the other stuff was great though. I've been taking a lot of notes.
So fermentation is then is like the next level of because what you introduce into your diet with fermented foods like kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles, is the enzymes that help repopulate the healthy gut. So it helps us digest our foods better. It helps us function better. I'm sure you talk about this a lot. It helps our emotional health. Our emotions start in our gut. I love the saying, trust your gut. I feel like we have to learn to trust our gut sometimes.
Yep.
And it's also important to listen to your body and what your body needs, because not every body is different. And not everybody needs a huge breakfast in the morning. Some people are just fine with a smoothie. Anyway, that's going more into that. I talk about this kind of stuff a lot on the retreat.
Yeah.
Too, and I'm kind of going into that a little bit. It's just important. Know your ingredients. Know your own body. Be conscientious about where the ingredients are coming from. Anything fermented is magical.
Yeah. I love that. Anything fermented is magical. I'm going to write that one down. Wow, it's true.
Yeah, that might have to become an Instagram.
I know. I know. That's your new saying right there. Yeah. No, I totally agree, because I think on this journey, just figuring out for me the importance of digestion and eating more whole foods, and, you know, just starting to slowly, and even now as a coach, I'm still learning too, right? I'm still, as you're saying, trying to apply the standards when I can, but give myself grace when I'm not, you know, if I'm going to go and get a salad when I'm out to eat, I could freak out and be like, you know what's it made in? And if I had a certain very serious condition that's warranted, but I really don't, it's like, I'm just going to do my best. And then when it's in my control, I'm going to do better.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I like that too, that you just said, I'm going to do my best, because we do have to know that our best is good enough.
Yes.
You know, we may not be perfect, but we are good enough. So we are doing, as long as we are doing our best, then we can be satisfied with it. And that actually also has an effect on how we digest our food, is what mood are we in. So if we are, you know, resenting the fact that we broke our will and, you know, we're having a donut with the coffee, then of course that donut is going to wreak havoc on you. But you're like, hey, this is really what I want. and I'm going to enjoy every bite. And then it's going to satisfy it's going to nourish your whole being, your whole body and soul. Even though it may not be the nutrients you needed, but feeding our soul is as important as feeding your, working your macros or whatever people do to track their, the science of eating.
Yeah. So good. So many great things. So many great things. I'm going to make sure to put these in the notes. But yeah, as we kind of then wrap up, what would you say before we talk about the new thing you're doing for the summer, for those listening who are maybe new to this reading labels journey, whole foods, like fermentation, digestion, like all these different things that, for both of us has taken time to kind of implement into our lives. What advice would you give them? What encouragement would you give them of like where to start in this journey?
That's a really good question. Where do you start? Because it's difficult. It is really hard to transition from, the normal comfort diets. If you know that it's something that you look forward to and you enjoy, how do you do it? I guess you do it one step at a time. So maybe you start by incorporating some sorts of vegetables into your meals, like if that's where you need to go. Maybe if you're already eating mainly, so then you would switch from like white rice to organic brown rice. And there are brands out there that are great. We do have a huge selection now and price range that is accessible between Costulus and Kirk's and, Foster's and all the grocery stores are making an effort to, increase more to increase the variety that they're offering.
Right.
I would say cut out the processed flour, cut out the non-organic, the dirty dozen, start to phase out, like get to know ingredients, explore what your diet looks like, and see where you can maybe trade out the standard apples for organic. You will taste the difference. Eventually you will feel a difference.
Yeah.
For people that are already like, I'm mainly healthy, but they want to do more than the fermentation. I think anyone can find fermentation that works for them. Kombucha, we do have like over 13 different flavors. I think that the range appealing to everybody, but also every kombucha brewing style is different. So, finding the right one for you. Some people might be at the place that they want to start fermenting. They want to try doing their own fermentation. Then I would definitely encourage DIY. It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
It's just time consuming and care. But there's enough YouTube videos. So you just do your research. One step at a time, and it just depends on where your starting point is.
Right. Exactly.
I find the traditional Caymanian fare, that is served at us, if you're going to eat at like a locals restaurant, it's I think really missing vegetables.
Yes.
Heavy starches. And it's great that it's local. It'll be cassava. It'll at least be locally grown or regional root vegetables that are starches. And I do respect that more than white rice. But then it's then there's the meat or the gravy or the fried chicken, or the new fish. But where's the vegetables? There's no colors.
Yeah. I remember when I first started, because I eat mainly like a paleo diet, and I remember when I first started to not eat as much rice, and I was like, can I just have extra vegetables at this one restaurant? And they looked at me and they were like, what? And first of all, then the vegetables was iceberg lettuce, and I was like, that's not that much nutrition. So I had to stop. Sadly, I loved it, but I had to stop eating there because it just wasn't enough food for me. So it's just, you're right. That's the main thing missing, I would say, from, and so a lot of people even ask me, when I'm trying to help them eat more whole foods, and they say, well, I'm like, actually the Caribbean's a really great place to start doing that, because we do have a lot of these awesome starches. We do have tons of great vegetables.
Totally.
And so it is just this mindset shift that we have to make,
Yeah, and that's another reason that I really enjoy working with local produce, though, because it's been such a challenge and when I first started going to the market, like a regular, every Saturday at 5:30 in the morning at the grounds in Savannah, back in the day, it was mainly pumpkin, callaloo, and sweet potato, like the norm. And then the shift happened, and all of a sudden we had all these amazing greens from all over the world. And people want to know, where do I start? Go to the market. Maybe that's it. That's my recommendation.
Yeah,
go to the market.
You're right. Go to the market. And sometimes actually look, like recently too, I think still go to the market. I totally agree. There's nothing like meeting people, getting it fresh. Like literally they pick the spinach and they're bringing it. But if you can't, like even now, Kirk's and Hurley's are starting to at least carry some of the local stuff.
Totally. Yeah, it makes it much more convenient.
Yeah.
To do like the one-stop shop. But still is helpful to get to know the farmers.
Oh, no, definitely. Definitely. I agree. Well, awesome. So many great stuff. Oh, I'm going to have, for everyone who's listening is going to love this. But so to wrap us up then okay, well, first thing, what are you kind of be doing for the summer? I know we talked about you're doing like a special summer sampling menu. For those locally listening, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so as we prepare to move into a cafe menu, so we're going to move away from like the standard Saucha box. So what you're going to see more of is we're going to start offering wraps and sourdough sandwiches, combination with soup or salad. So you'll be able to kind of pick and choose what you're in the mood for. If you need something easy to digest and light and you just want soup and salad, or maybe you want, sandwich and salad. This is a pretty standard, set of offerings, but what is going to be so unique about it is that we're going to maintain like our most popular items, like the walnut taco meat or the sauces, like the almond chili sauce. And those will be incorporated on a rotating basis again, so kind of like how Saucha's always been. We'll still design our menu seasonally. So what we're sampling this summer is seeing like what kind of wraps we want to put together. What were our most popular menu items and how can we kind of transform them into something new? Because for the past 5 years, we've been working with having to build a meal that had to sit, because it had to be delivered and it wasn't fresh to the customer right there. So by being able to serve directly at the cafe, we're really excited to be able to change, how we present our food. So the summer sampler menu is about that. Does that answer the question?
It does. Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So that's what we're working on this summer, as well as getting the cafe open. And we hope that will be very fast.
And then those, right, you were telling me earlier too that there's going to be a limited number of people that can opt in for that menu because you want it to be a tester where people can give you quality feedback and you can prepare for quality food. So definitely anyone that is in Cayman listening and is interested in that, be sure to, just follow Saucha on Facebook or Instagram so you can be updated when all this is happening. Even sign up for your, email newsletter. So
the weekly email menu.
Yeah, weekly email menu. Yeah. And so kind of to wrap us up then, like where can people, if they want to just learn more about you, your website or your social media, what are those links? I'll link them in too, but just for those listening.
Okay, so the website is sauchaliving.com, and Saucha is spelled Saucha, the word living. And then all of our social media is Saucha Cayman. Facebook, Instagram. We do have a Twitter account, but it gets automatically updated, so I'm not a tweet.
Me either. Twitter. It just goes from Instagram to Twitter.
It's there, but I guess it's not as active if you are a Twitter user than our account stagnant. Instagram is much better, and I do try to keep the content different. I do also, my personal Instagram, it's kind of related, and it's you can learn more about me personally. So that's Britta Bush. That's it. Those are all of our.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and just sharing your heart. I think that's the biggest thing, your heart for the why you do what you do, not just because
Yeah.
it's a cool thing, but you really do. You were impacted and you really want to impact and empower people to care about their food and everything that goes with it.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, yeah. So thanks everyone for listening. And for those listening during June, I am doing a Healthy Body Challenge, free challenge online that does talk about nutrition, digestion, and toxins a bit. So if you're interested in just fleshing some of this out, sign up for that and that will be in the link. So thank you all for listening and see you in the next episode.